Music is just like any other trade. If you want to do a good job, you're going to need the right tools. Now maybe that's a computer, maybe that's a piano, and maybe that's a 20-sided dice. Hi, my name is Titus Mead. Let's get weird with music. A composer has a unique relationship with sound. On one hand, he gets to sculpt it and mold it however he likes, but on the other hand, there's some very specific rules that he needs to follow in order to make the sound like, well, music. Today, I'm going to be following those rules, but the sculpting part, I'm going to leave up to random chance. I'm going to be rolling a 20-sided dice to determine the rhythm of my piece and the chord structure, and then I'm going to put it together and try to make something that sounds like music instead of just a bunch of random jargon. So we're going to start with a drum groove. I'm still working out camera angles. If I roll a 1, I'll play a hi-hat, followed by kick drum. 3 is cymbal 1, cymbal 2, big snare, little snare, high tom, followed by low tom and floor tom, and then finally hi-hat and 32nd notes. Okay, confession time. I originally intended to put everything in 16th notes and only that in 32nds, but it ended up being everything in 8th notes and only that in 16ths. Okay, moving on. You may notice that 11 to 20 is the exact same list over again, only with the word "and" added to the end of it. What that means, if I say roll an 11, I would play a hi-hat, and then let's say I rolled a 5, I would play a hi-hat and a big snare at the same time. Now there's one more stipulation to this, and that's I can only roll 3 and beats in a row. So if I was to roll a 17, a 16, and a 15, I would treat the 15 as if it was just a 5. I'm going to start rolling dice. So already this is going to be a very interesting thing. My very first hit is low tom plus floor tom plus hi-hat and 32nd notes. This is going to be fun. Okay, maybe I got just a little bit carried away here.
One eternity later.
Okay, maybe really carried away. Alright, here's my drum groove. Yeah, it looks pretty stupid. And it's gonna sound pretty stupid. Next, we're gonna tackle some chords. But first, I'm gonna make sure everybody's up to speed and do 60 seconds of music theory. In all of Western music, there are only 12 notes. It's these. Notice that it both begins and ends on the same note. That's because the pattern repeats. Now you can take 7 more notes off of that called the major scale. Again, notice the repeating pattern. Now we're ready for chords. You take a method I like to call the pick a skip method, where you pick a note, skip the next one, pick the next one, skip the next one, and pick the next one, and you put them all together. By the way, this is called tertian harmony, but that's really not important. Eureka, we've got it. Next we're going to do the same thing with the D. This one's a minor chord. It's called that because of the relationship the 3 notes in it have in the set of 12 up above. Okay, to save time, I'm just going to fill in all the rest of the chords. And then I'll label them as 1, 2 minors indicated by a lowercase Roman numeral, 3 minor, 4, 5, 6 minor, and 7 diminished, as represented by the little circle at the end. Do you remember when we did the skip it pick it pattern a second ago and we got these 3 notes? What if we skipped one more time and got this one? We put all those together, and since we added the 7th interval of the scale, we get a 7 chord. Okay, so now that we're all caught up on theory, let's get to the fun part. Next up we got chords. I'm going to be rolling a 20-sided dice again for chords. The first 7 are exactly what you might expect: 1, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4, 5, 6 minor, and 7 diminished. And then after that, I just repeated the pattern again, but with the respective 7 chords. Hold on, I forgot the little circle on 7. Next up, we have the 1-6-9 chord. I really couldn't resist. Sorry I didn't have time in the music theory in a minute video to explain 1-6-9s. Let me know in the comments if you're interested and I can explain it in a later video. Next, I decided to make it more complicated than it needed to be. I thought, why not add some chords that aren't in the right key? And that's exactly what I did. First up is a 4 major chord that goes into a 4 minor chord that's not in key if a 4 resolving to the 1. For 17 and 18, I did the tritone substitute and the secondary dominant. Tritone substitute is basically where I come at a chord from 1/2 step above it, like this. And the secondary dominant is where I come at a chord from a 5th above it, like this. 19 is just going 1 step up from the last chord. So say my last chord was 5, I would go from 5 to 6 minor. And finally 20 is just 1 move right on the circle of fifths, which is this guy right here. One thing I'd like to mention while you're watching me write this is that the 7 diminished chord showed up a lot in these dice rolls. That kind of made me nervous because the 7 diminished is by far the most dissonant one, but it actually kind of worked out in the end. Okay, let's move on. Now I gotta pick what key I'm gonna play this whole thing in. So I'm rolling the dice. 13, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Well, that's convenient. Roll more dice than a game of D&D. But finally the rolling's over. Let's get to writing. Good morning. 7 o'clock in the morning before I go to work. I'm gonna program the drum beat in real quick and we'll get this show started. It's probably gonna take a minute. Okay. Hi-hat and hi-hat 32. I wasn't recording, but earlier I had hi-hat plus hi-hat, so I decided to just go ahead and make that an open hi-hat because I wasn't sure what else to do. So now I have hi-hat plus, oh no, I misread that. It's hi-tom plus hi-hat 32. We're gonna leave that out of the video. Sometimes a straight line is an L, sometimes it's a 1. Content. And here's my final result. Oh man, this is going to be interesting. Can't wait to put chords behind it. But it's gonna have to wait until after work at least. I really hate this. I filmed myself as I was writing the song and putting the chords down, but all of the footage either got lost or deleted or corrupted or something, and so really, this is the only bit of usable footage I have left from that. And let's be honest, nobody wants to watch somebody play the bass. Because of my lack of footage, I'm going to run you through the process really fast of how I got to where I was going. First thing I did was I just put the chords in front of me, put the drum beat in my ears, and just started strumming out some chords to see what would happen. And I ran into one big problem really fast. Because the drum beat was so random, I couldn't distinguish where one was. There's no strong beats or weak beats, it was just random drum beats in my ears, and it made it really hard to play. So what I did to fix that is I just isolated one measure of the drum beat and looped it in my ear, and then I could play the chords over that. And as Adam Neely always says, repetition legitimizes. It became a stable drum beat to where I could listen to, understand the pulse, and play, and that made it so much easier to put the chords behind it. I played with the effects a little bit. Biggest chunk of the song is all just one guitar effect, and then all I did was just switch the pickups so we get a lighter, bouncier feel towards the end. Just for variety, because with random chords being played over a random beat, it kind of gets monotonous. So I did as much as I could to keep it interesting. After I'd gotten all the chords together, I decided to see what it would sound like with the original drum beat, so I unlooped it, played the drum beat under it, and you still get a good sense of where you are in the piece. So I just left it. Next thing I did was I tried to make the random sound more random. So I found this really, really wet, washed out guitar tone. I just went ahead and played the first 4 chords of the song really slowly, really, esoterically. I kind of did the same thing again at the end, where I just ended it, except for I just stayed on the last chord, which is the 1-6-9 chord. Lol. And I just plucked random notes in that chord across several different instruments with no regard to time or meter or anything like that. So it's just random notes being played in your ears at random times, but they all kind of work together, which I feel like is a perfect ending for this song because, well, that's essentially what it is. Before we get on to the final product, I just want to say thank you for watching this far. This is my first ever YouTube video. I'm learning as I go, so if you have any suggestions for videos you want to see in the future, please leave me a comment. Otherwise, just like and subscribe so you can see more in the future. Anyway, let's just get to it.